Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to start a new math unit. It is called Writing and Interpreting Numerical Expressions. What a mouthful. It's basically going to start out by teaching you something called the order of operations. Now, maybe you've heard about the order of operations before, maybe you haven't, I'm not sure. Basically, it's like when you have an expression, a numerical expression, which is a number sentence, you and you have like maybe multiply in it and subtract and divide or whatever. There's a certain order you have to do those operations, and that's what this video is about, and this is what the first lesson is about. So I'm going to start by telling you a story. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a story. It was, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, and I invited Mrs. Kelly to my home. And I told my husband, I said, I need you to make a nice dinner. I want you to really, cook your heart out, because I really want Mrs. Kelly to feel very at home, and I want her to be impressed. So, the day before, we cleaned the house like crazy, and we got out all the fancy silverware and the plates and everything, got all that, the table set nicely. And, of course, that day, Kevin cooked quite a nice meal. It was a roast beef dinner. And Mrs. Kelly was right on time, and she looked really great, and she sat down. We just kind of hung out for a little while, and then we started dinner. And everything was going great. And then there's a little ding dong. And when I go to the door, I see through the window. I have a window in my door. I could see who was there, and my heart just dropped because it was my Aunt Sally. And my Aunt Sally has a habit of dropping by unannounced. She doesn't even have a cell phone. She can't call and say, I'm on my way. No, so she's right there. And of course, I invite her in. I said, hello, Aunt Sally. What's going on? And she goes, well, I thought I'd stop by for dinner. I'm like, well, okay. We're just having dinner, so okay, why don't you just have a seat with us? And I kind of whispered to her, I'm like, Aunt Sally, be on your best behavior. Well, I kind of hoped and prayed, but sometimes things don't go the way you want them to. Anyway, so she sat down at dinner, and we were just, getting dinner going. So I introduced her to Mrs. Kelly, and she, that was all pleasant. And get her a plate of food to eat. And, she was one of those people that, I don't know if you have somebody in your family who does this, but when they use their silverware and they're cutting meat and stuff, it's just loud. So she's clink, 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 with her, it's just very loud. And, when I see her take her first bite, she's like, I'm like cringing inside, and I kind of tell Mrs. Kelly, I said, Mrs. Kelly, just please excuse my Aunt Sally. She tends to eat with her mouth open a little bit. And Mrs. Kelly was like very cool about it, so we kind of get through the dinner, and just towards the end of dinner, I hear this come out of her mouth, the loudest burp you've ever heard. And I leaned over to Miss Kelly. I said, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. She sometimes thinks that if you burp, that's a compliment to the chef. Anyway, so we finally finished dinner. We had our dessert and everything like that. And then my Aunt Sally starts fumbling around in her purse, and she pulls out a cigarette and lights it up. And she blows the smoke. It goes all over, and goes into Miss Kelly's face. And I said, "Oh, Miss Kelly, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. She is just her own self, and she's not going to try to be anyone else." And when we were done, she just kind of got up and said, "Well, that dinner was pretty good." And on her way out, I could have sworn I heard a as she walks out the door. You believe that? I leaned over to Miss Kelly and I said, and she goes, "Oh, no, don't say it." She goes, "I know what you're going to say. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." Oh, that's my story, really. She was cool about it. And, Aunt Sally comes and visits every once in a while, and it's always an interesting day. All right, so you're thinking, what does that story have to do with math? Well, it doesn't have a lot to do with math, but I am going to show you the order of operations, how it works, and you'll see how this connects to our story. So hold on. Get into this. There we go. So, order of operations. Know the rules, follow the rules, and be awesome. So, I told you a story, and here is my Aunt Sally. Isn't she lovely? That jacket is, I would kill to have a jacket like that. Anyway, so the order of operations. When you have a numerical expression that has more than one operation, you need to know which operation to do first. Use the rules of the order of operations to evaluate or solve. Evaluate means solve. Expressions with more than one operation. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So this is kind of like one of those, like when we're learning the order of planets, we have a silly sentence to go with that. Well, with the order of operations, we have a silly sentence to go with that. And it is pretty well known by a lot of math teachers. Everybody uses this mnemonic expression. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally stands for parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide left to right, add or subtract left to right. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay? So now we're going to look at an expression. Now this is a numerical expression. 7 plus parentheses 2 times 8. Okay? And it says first, solve inside the parentheses. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So the first thing we have to do is anything that's in the parentheses, no matter what it is. So I'm going to kind of show you, this is the parentheses. When you do 2 times 8, you get 16. So now it's 7 plus 16. And then you just add it up. That's 23. Okay, that was a short one. Look at another one. So look at this. This is kind of what you're working with in this unit. 16 plus 4 in parentheses times 3 plus 9. What should we do first? We should do the parentheses first because P-E-M-D-A-S, parentheses. So now we would have 16 plus 4, which is in the parentheses. We have to do that first. 16 plus 4 is 20. So now we have 20 times 3 plus 9. Okay, that's just the leftover part of after the parentheses. So now we have 20 times 3 plus 9. So do we do the times first or do we do the plus first? Okay, well, looking at our order of operations, we don't have any exponents, but we do have multiply and divide. And I should point out to you that it's multiply and divide. So either one. So if you had a division sentence here, you would do that first. And then add or subtract. We'll get to that in a little bit. You'll see what I mean. So we have to do the 20 times 3. Okay, so we have to do this right here, 20 times 3, which is 60. So now we have what's left over is 60 plus 9, and that's 69. Okay, and that would be adding last. Here's another example. Of course, I have the answer here, but that's okay. 13, how did I get 513? 13 plus 10 to the second times 5. Well, let's look at that. 13 plus 10 to the second times 5. Remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So do I have any parentheses? No. Do I have an exponent? Hey, I do. So remember, 10 to the second power means 10 times 10. When you have an exponent, it's just the base number times itself. And we times itself 2 times, so 10 times 10. So really, what we have here is 13. I'm just going to rewrite the sentence, plus 100 times 5. Okay? What will we do next? Are we going to add or are we going to multiply? We're going to multiply. So I'm just going to rewrite it again. 13 plus 100 times 5, which is 500. And when you add 13 plus 500, you'll get 513. Let's look at the next one. Parentheses 6 minus 2, sloppy, times 6 plus 2. Okay, Pemdas. Okay. We have parentheses, so we have to do that first. So 6 minus 2 is 4. Times 6. Now I don't need to really write the parentheses anymore. So I'm just going to 4 times 6 plus 2. And so what do we do next? We multiply. 4 times 6 is 24 plus 2, and that's going to be 26. Okay. Now, I had some of these that I would do this with, different table groups, but it's okay. I just want to do maybe 1 or 2 of them. Let's see here. Let's try the first one. 100 minus 6 times parentheses 4 plus 7. Okay. We got to do the parentheses first. Pemdas. Okay. Parentheses first. So I'm just going to rewrite 100 minus 6 times 4 plus 7 is 11. Okay. Now we have subtraction and multiplication next. So we have to do the multiply first. So we have to do 6 times 11. 6 times 11 is 66. And 100 minus 66 equals 34. Okay? Let's do one more here. All right. Let's do this one right here. So it's 10 plus 8 times 5 plus 30. So when I look at the operations that are there, I have plus and I have times. So we have to do the times first. So I'm just going to rewrite the sentence and do the times part first. 10 plus 8 times 5 is 40 plus 30. Well, this one's easy now. 10 plus 40 plus 30. And that would be 80, which is what I have here. All right. Okay, so that's the order of operations. It's really not too hard. And we'll, of course, make it a little more complicated. You know how math is. It always starts out easy, and then we make it more sophisticated because you are sophisticated learners at this point. That's all I have for you today. Just go ahead and answer the rest of the questions that follow this video, and have a great day. See ya. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.